Our next talk is from Valeria Arena, Paper Conservator from the Ministry of Culture in Italy, and Claudia Giostrella, a PhD student from the University of Florence in Italy. Their talk is The Irresistible Attraction of the Magnets and the Large Format Works on Papers, the experience of the Salce Collection National Museum in Treviso, Italy.
Hello everybody, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak today. My name is Claudia Giostrella. I am a book and paper conservator, and I am working at the Italian Ministry of Culture from 1999. At the moment, I am a PhD student at the University of Florence, and the topic of my research is the conservation of large format works on paper. These kinds of artifacts represent a big challenge for conservators, restorers, and mounters. Finding properly storage solution, safe methodology for handling and designing suitable exhibition structures are the first solution to avoid causes of degradation and damages derived from mechanical stress. Very often these objects, which are not possible to be protected with a frame system, and we'll hear later from Valeria about pros and cons about this mounting, suffered from the wrong manipulations of persons not trained to handle large-sized paper artifacts, and from wrong setup projects that do not take into account the proper physical tensioning of paper. Most of the time, they were displayed on heavy and complex overestimated mounting systems, and the choice of materials used for lining and mounting reflected the painting restoration lining techniques, borrowed from the preservation of canvas paintings, without considering the different mechanical behavior of the materials. Only well-trained people and a specialized paper conservator that very often are able to move alone a large format with special tips and techniques should be employed to move large format on paper. The use of the controlled magnetic attraction has been widely used for the temporary mounting for works on paper. It is easy to use, sustainable, and very adaptable to the aesthetic needs of exhibition designers, and ideal for the large format works on paper, and in many cases can avoid the use of stressful lining conservation projects. During my research studies, I met Valeria Arena, Senior Paper Conservator at the Italian Ministry of Culture, at the Regional Direction of Museum in the Veneto region. Thanks to her, I discovered an example of proper and virtuous management of conservation and exhibition of the very big collection of large format posters at the Salce Museums in Treviso, a very beautiful city in the Veneto region, well known for the Prosecco Italian sparkling wine and the tiramisu cake. I was very well impressed by the extensive use of magnets in this Italian cultural institution, as very often the use of this alternative way of mounting of paper artifacts is still not very well accepted. Let me leave the floor at Valeria, who will tell us about her amazing job at the Salce Museum.
The Museo Salce in Treviso possesses an extremely wide collection of graphic advertising, consisting of 15,000 posters dated from the end of the 19th century to today. Because of the large number of works, a particular approach is needed in regards both to preventive conservation and to exhibiting them. As far as preventive conservation is concerned, the works are preserved and mounted in a deposit in contact with one another. Unfortunately, there is not the physical space necessary to interleave them with barrier paper. The desire to make the entire collection available to the public and the necessity of not having the works exposed to the light for more than 3 months at a time has led to the creation of a system of temporary exhibition in which the posters are rotated and never shown in a permanent manner. Furthermore, the large number of loan requests aids the museum in spreading the knowledge of its collection outside his own exhibition halls. It was necessary to find the best system to exhibit the works both for internal shows and for loans, because the works are moved in large quantities, usually 80, are large formats, and are not very common. In fact, the Museo Salce is one of the few museums in the world entirely dedicated to poster, and one of the most important in Europe for collection size. Working at the Museo Salce, I realized that exhibiting a poster inside a traditional frame creates confusion about the originality and nature of the work for visitors, who think they are modern-day reprints. Even mounting the poster on canvas, which corresponds to a more invasive restoration intervention, brings with it this ambiguity, because it mitigates the traces of time. Therefore, when I came to the Museo Salce 4 years ago, I started proposing restoration that did not call for canvas or paper linings, and recommend avoiding the use of frame. On my arrival, the museum already had an excellent installed system which employed neodymium magnets applied to metallic walls. This solution has proved itself to be very suitable for frequent installation through use and over the years. In fact, it makes it unnecessary to repaint the walls each time and arrange for new exhibiting supports. Once the exhibition sequence is decided, all that needs to be done is to lay the poster on the metallic wall and block it with magnets on its perimeter. In order to do so, 3 people are usually necessary: 2 who hold the poster in place and 1 that ensures the work in proper tension. The magnets are temporarily placed in vertical position in case of any adjustment are needed. Then they are placed horizontal, starting from the center. When the format of the work is particularly large, an additional person can be useful so that they can gradually unroll the work along the wall. Usually, we use disc-shaped magnets, which are 3 mm thick and 15 mm in diameter. These magnets, which are usually composed of neodymium, iron, and boron, are always coated with zinc or nickel because the materials are subjected to corrosion. To isolate the work from the magnets coating and increase the friction between the poster and the magnets itself, an additional paper or Tyvek coating can be added. The magnets we use have a high resistance to demagnetization, thus can be reused many times. If the strand of the magnets is well selected, and because it is so compact and thin, the poster paper will not be subjected to any deformation or impressions. Nonetheless, this may occur on canvas lining poster if the magnet strength is excessive. Outdoor exhibition spaces usually cannot be arranged with entirely metallic walls. Thus, metallic bars are placed in correspondence to the margins of the work. I always ask that the bars are not shorter than the work itself, so that an accidental shift of the magnets will not damage the extremely fragile paper of the poster. Other institutes have given different indication, I believe for aesthetics reasons. The thickness of the metal bars needs to be sufficient to allow the proper insertion of the screws which are used to fix the bars to the wall. A larger thickness could increase the risk of a breakthrough because an accidental collision, and it could especially cause the airflow created by visitors to excessively move the poster because of its distance from the wall. Obviously, the edges of the aforementioned bars need to be smooth and their surface inert. And now let me to talk to you about the pros and the cons of a poster exhibited with a frame and a frontal protection. Pro. higher protection from collision, atmospheric particulate matter, and UV rays. Cons. Possible necessity of paper hinge application and requires specialized equipment and knowledge. We have a different perception from the one with which the works was created. Posters were directly applied to building walls or to Morris columns. It can be challenging to build large format frames and passepartout. While a poster mounted with magnets has these pros and cons. Easy to hang and to remove, fully and easily reversible. We have a similar perception of the work as in original wall display. The margins are visible. If the posters are composed of multiple separate sheets of paper, these can be jointed in a completely reversible manner. And we have the possibility of mounting works on curved wall. Cons. We have no protection from collision, atmospheric particulate matter, and UV rays. And in other contexts, such as with the architectural drawings by Paolo Soleri, for example, magnetic strips cut from plastic ferrite sheets were experimented with. These strips are commonly not used at the Museo Salce because the posters are not always flat and often present folds and other deformation. Reason 4, which is it safer to apply more punctual forces. Magnets have been used to exhibit works on paper at least since 80s. It is fairly versatile and safe, but in Italy, the most cases people will rather use the more traditional frames. We hope that the experience at Museo Salce will help spread this interesting alternative. For any doubts or questions, feel free to contact us or look at the loan guidelines on the website of Museo Salce, which for now are unfortunately only available in Italian.
I believe Claudia is joining us today for question and answers.
Yes, hi everybody.
Yes, hi Claudia. Thank you for your talk. I'm sorry,
So
Valeria.
sorry,
Yeah.
Valeria is not with us. So if you have any question about the Museum Salce, you can write to her. As she say, hi everybody, she has got a problem with Acqua Alta in Venice, so she's not here, she's at work now.
I have a question about the metal walls. Can you tell us a little bit more about those? Are they metal, are they powder coated, or is it magnetic paint? I'm just really curious.
This part I think is about Valeria because I'm not working in a museum, so maybe it's better you ask to her. It's a new method. I think the museum was completely renewed just at the end of the 2018, so it's completely new. Also, this mounting system with the metal panels. But I can ask what kind of metal is. Sorry.
We have a couple of virtual questions. The first one is, how do you apply the paper or Tyvek coating to the magnets?
This is another question for Valeria, but sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
I am just presenting Valeria.
I am curious to know, in your research, are you planning on developing about different interface between magnets and the surface of the works itself? Since some interface used like Tyvek and Millar tends to be very slippery. Can you elaborate about this, or is it in your plan to make further researches about that?
No, it's not on my topic, but it's very interesting indeed. Now I am working on some research on nanotechnologies and on the cellulose, nanocellulose. And I think it could be a nice, interesting materials for this, also for this kind of work. Well, I can ask to the scientist about this. But actually I use only paper, yes, Japanese paper.
We have a few more virtual questions. They may be technical, but please answer them if you can. One is, can you please describe how you store the magnets? I'm sorry.
I don't know, Valeria, how to store it, but in my museum, just one attached one another and on a drawer. We don't take much care about the magnets. I think we should do. That's a good question. I will ask to Valeria.
Okay, we'll have a list.
I think she has got a lot of magnets. So.
Here's another one. This person is saying, in my experience, these magnets are prone to pick up metal shavings in the environment. How do you prevent them from abrading the poster or embedding metal in the paper? Additionally, how do you remove magnets without abrading the paper?
That's a good question. It depends, I think, on the paper and on the object you have. So, in this case, posters are very smooth. Is modern paper, mechanical paper, and I don't think. And they use a lot of magnets and not so so heavy with the traction. So. I don't think there is so much risk about removing or mounting, and it is always for temporary times. So I think they don't have exposition more than 3 months, but this is another question to ask directly to Valeria. Sorry.
No worries.
Not helpful.
Yeah, there's another question that's interesting, and I think this is a Valeria question probably, but we'll add it to her list, has there been any issue with the visitors moving or removing the magnets if they have access to them?
This is another big problem. Mm-hmm. Well, in the Museum Salce, I think there is a person in every room. So you have to look at the people, especially in this period. And this is another problem. And you see in the museum, there are no separation between the people. So we trust a lot in people entering museums that are that have education in not touching and not being crazy, but sometimes. But there are no. If we put something on the front, it's the same as to have framed it. So they don't want to frame. They don't want a separation between the papers and the eyes of the visitor. Mm-hmm. It's a risk we have to have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Great, thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much.